Thanks for joining a couple of 90s kids. You're listening to Stuck in My Generation. All right, welcome back to Stuck in My Generation. That is what this shit is called, isn't it? That is.
That's it.
I wasn't 100% sure. So anyways, we left you off. We're back again. Hicks is back. We probably won't do the back and forth like, how you doing today? Yeah, you know, I had a cold. No. Life is hard. Pandemic sucks.
Living the dream.
Living the dream. So we won't bore you with all that shit, but me and Hicks are back. We did our homework. We listened to the Beatles. I never gave him much of a chance. You gave him more of a chance than me, but I've definitely given him a chance now. You said you burned yourself out on it a little bit. You dove in so hard.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I mean, I just went straight through, starting out the first album. I actually did pretty much 2 rounds of it, you know, while I was tinkering around in the garage and stuff. And yeah, kind of overdosed on it a little bit.
Yeah, I could probably say the same, but where I took like a 3 or 4 day break, maybe 5 in between recording episodes and listening to the Beatles. And I did give like a 4 or 5 day break was enough for me to dive right back in and still be pretty impressed. That being said, like let's start out with you. Like, what do you have a point where you were listening to them that something grabbed you and was like, okay, I get it now. Like, I get why the Beatles are renowned and pretty much credited as everyone in the world's fucking influence. Nirvana claims them the influence. Like, I don't know, Kurt. I'm not real sure I hear any Beatles in your music, but
yeah. You know, I think there was different stages, different phases with the Beatles. You know, I kind of grew up on, as I mentioned in the previous episode, you know, my mom always had music playing. She was a huge Beatles fan, more of the boy band era, you know, the beginning.
Yeah, they were like the first boy band, right? Like a lot of people call them the first boy band.
Yeah, and you know, I went back and listened to a lot of those albums. You know, a lot of the stuff, it seemed like they were trying to drag the 50s sound into the 60s a little bit.
Yeah,
from my opinion.
That's where I was too.
And it seems like, you know, with the by the time they came out with their second album with the Beatles, you know, they had a lot of covers, and that was the thing to do back then. But the Roll Over Beethoven and the Please Mr. Postman and stuff like that, you know, songs from earlier that were done right in the first place.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
it just sounds like a bunch of like a pool party, you know, a bunch of guys, a cover band at a pool party type. It's not very believable. I mean, it just seems like it was put out to make money.
Yeah, and that's why I never gave him a chance.
Yeah, and it's you know, the whole I'm gonna hold your hand stuff and
yeah,
that stuff. The boy band years, I'm not a big fan of. You know, by the time they got to around 65, the Help album, I think they were better established. I think, and starting to find their, I don't want to say finding their groove, but kind of I started paying more attention around the Help album, probably. Ticket to Ride, Hide Your Love, Yesterday, which is a great song.
Yeah. And and lo and behold, anyone listening, we do, what would you end up with? Top 10 or top 20? It was hard as fuck to just slim it down.
It was very hard. I'll tell you what, I did top 5 albums. I did top 10 songs and 5 honorable mentions, and it was so hard to get that locked in.
I don't think I've even got it yet. Like I think I've got 16 or 17 that I'm trying to shuffle through and go top 10. I'm probably going to do it on the fly on this episode. Just because, but I'm with you kind of. Like I did a playlist, ended up with 109 songs that I deemed I can't live without as far as the Beatles go. which that's a lot of songs, man. Like Nirvana, I've got like 4, you know,
Right.
there's just 109. Like I'm going through these albums, and when I hear a song that I just really like, I'm throwing it into my Beatles playlist. And the first couple albums, between those first 2, for the exact reasons you said, the poppy, the covers, the like high pitched boy voices with their guitars, like you nailed it, like trying to drag the 50s into the 60s. Like
Yeah.
I get why they were so popular, and I think it is because of that boy band aesthetic and the harmonies, of course. But those first couple albums, I have 3 of those 109 songs are in my playlist. So like the first couple albums, this reinforces why I didn't give them a chance, because I heard that style every time I saw anything about the Beatles. I heard something cover or early album, and I was like, that's just not for me.
Right.
And then by the time we get to, so I don't want to fuck this up, and if I hit it, it's probably going to play. Yeah, A Hard Day's Night. That album is where I started digging my toes in a little bit. Like I got a lot of songs off that album, and then it kind of went from there. I have probably 3/4 of that album in this playlist, and then that kind of follows suit for a while. I have like 3/4 of the next handful of albums. It's like, man, I like more songs. I like them all, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not the first couple albums, but like once I hit A Hard Day's Night, like I like almost everything from that point on for a while. And that shocked me. Like I was super surprised that I was into the Beatles that much.
Yeah.
I digress. So you said Help is when you started getting, yeah. So you dug in on Help. I dug in on A Hard Day's Night. Like up until that point, do you remember, was there a song that you were just like, oh shit, okay, and that kind of fueled the listening? Was there a single song, or was it just the album in general?
I think I don't want to say the Help album in general. They covered, I believe it was a cover. I recall Buck Owens doing Act Naturally. I want to say that he was the first artist to release that song, and the Beatles version, I mean, it's pure shit off the Help album. I mean, it's just, I don't dig it.
What was that? What'd you say that song was called?
Act Naturally. All I want to do is act naturally.
Yep, I don't have that on my playlist, thankfully, so it must have been. But and it took a lot for me to be like, I'm leaving this out. Like it took a lot for me to do that, because I got into him pretty hardcore through this. So apparently Act Naturally was shit to me as well.
Yeah. Yeah. But I a big fan of the song Yesterday from the Help album.
Yeah. That's in spoiler, that's in my top 17 that I'm trying to whittle down to 10. Like it's in there.
Yeah. So that's probably the beginning of my interest as far as their albums, I would say. Rubber Soul was released the same year.
Half of these albums were released the same damn year. It's like,
you're right.
How many they just pumped them out, man, between like 62 and 70. It's just like boom.
I was on a flight one time with a guy. I started talking to him. He was flying from Los Angeles to, I think, Phoenix, and he was this is off subject, but he was a guitar tech in training, and he was flying out to Arizona to learn how to wind pickups, going to school for that. We started talking about music in a little bit, and I mentioned one band. I don't recall who it was, but I mentioned their first album was just unbelievable. So good. Well, the time that the second album came out, it was pure shit. Third album was even worse, and they just snowballed downhill from there. And this guy said, well, a lot of those bands, they've been touring and really focusing on that group of songs that goes on their first album for many, many years. And I thought, that's a very good point. I never thought of that. And
Yeah, I guess that would make sense.
the money machine, the big business wants to, they get greedy and they want that second album, right now.
Yeah, and
And
they push them.
they push them. And with the Beatles, you get, like you said, a lot of the albums were released in the same year and they were good.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what impresses me so much. Like, the Beatles didn't have longevity.
Yeah.
Like, they had time working against them. And I got 109 songs from less than a decade on a playlist out of them. Like, that's when the shit becomes real to me. I'm like, okay, like I really missed out for over 3 decades in listening to a band that I've heard influences all throughout that 8-year run, or 9. I don't know the exact, but like I listened to Helter Skelter and I was like, and then I looked at the date it was released and I looked at the date that Led Zeppelin started. I was like, there's no fucking way that Led Zeppelin didn't listen to this song before becoming a band. Like, like the Beatles start screeching on that song, like, I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, fucking Led Zeppelin ripped them off.
Yeah.
And then made that sound better off of that song. And maybe that's not even true, but to me, it sounded true. Like, to me, I was like, there's influence all over the place. Like, I heard a song, I don't recall right at the moment, but Billy Joe Armstrong, if he's not a major Beatles fan, I don't know who else is. Like that. There's so many songs I heard that I'm like, dude, I've heard Billy Joe Armstrong do shit like this.
Yeah.
Like just certain melodies and certain moments and certain, guitar parts. I'm like, you start to realize that everyone really was influenced by this band. And when you hear that poppy shit from like the first album or two, you're like, how the hell could a Led Zeppelin or a Nirvana or like they're not influenced by this. They're full of shit. And then you listen to more and hear what they do. You're like, okay, I get it now. Like there's a lot of it.
I'm the same with you. I heard Jack White in some of the albums. I thought, man, that sounds like a Jack White groove.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jack White's done a shit ton of stuff that could sound like that.
Yeah.
And this is, if you've never gave the Beatles much of a thought, like I get it, but like once you get into like the White Album and Revolver, like there's some fucking rock in there. Like, I mean, this band didn't just bop around, like they rocked. Like they rocked pretty damn hard sometimes, and some of the shit they threw together, minus the Indian music. I didn't really get into a lot of the the sprinkling, like I was like, they were on some drugs.
Oh, they were on some drugs, and it's
real good stuff.
It's like I said, there's different stages. They had the boy band stage and the under the influence stage and the political stage and the spiritual. Their music followed how they felt at the time. And
and they. I mean, if there's no better definition in music of a group evolving, like you just you hear it, and I think that's why A Hard Day's Night, like. I heard an uptick in the grunginess of their sound on that album. Like it was like, okay, they're not boys anymore. These guys they're men now.
Yeah.
Even though they put that album out like the year after their first album or something, 7 months later or some bullshit like that. Like you hear it, you hear the maturity in it. And it's kind of crazy to take that journey from start to finish. I was blown away.
Yeah.
Like blown the fuck away. And I'm just looking at my list of favorites. I'm like, dude, I don't know how to pick through these. There's so many damn good songs. And
I was trying to lock in a top 3 and I fudged it. Top 3 songs. And I thought, man, this time next week, this top 3 is going to be different. Just because there's just so much.
Yeah. And it really would take like, I mean, I think we spent a fair amount and an ample amount of time on it, but how long would it take you to actually sift through and figure out that top 10? Like, I think I would need to listen to 20 or 30 songs for like a week to really nail down what my top 10.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't think
Yeah.
I could do it any other way. Like, I
Yeah.
got a clear outline of what my favorite top 3 or 4 probably are, but I don't know it for sure.
That's the same way with me.
Not 100% sure if it'd be my top 3 or not. So what, without going through all of it, what should we talk about? Should we go top couple albums, top 3 or 4 songs, and then get into the rest later? Or I'm staring at these songs and I want to fucking listen to them. I don't even want to talk about them. I'm like, God damn, I want to hear that right now.
Right. Yeah. I'm just going through some notes here. You know, you do top 10.
I'll say I'll say off the bat, my favorite song, and it probably has a lot to do with my wife, because whenever I decided to give the Beatles a chance, it was because me and her were up in this studio that I'm in now.
Uh-huh.
And it was a kid-free night, so we were just having a leisure night. And we can watch a movie here. There's a couch over there at the time. And we listened to Abbey Road. And I was a little bit inebriated. So I heard that and I was like, holy shit. It's like, this is good stuff. Like, this is really good stuff. And I think because of the moment and because of my wife, the song I Want You, She's So Heavy is my favorite song. Like, it just, the ambience of it and the guitar lead in, it's just, it kind of blows me away. Like, that's not only one of my favorite Beatles songs, it might be one of my favorite songs ever. And for me to discover that by diving into this, it makes me pretty happy. Like, I don't have to listen to Slipknot with my kid anymore. I can listen to the Beatles.
Yeah. That's a really good album. You know, actually, I think I have at least two songs from Abbey Road. In my top 10, Come Together.
It's a good one.
Come Together is in my top 10.
I don't have it on mine, but it would be at the back. It would be in the 20 if I went from 17 to 20. It would probably be in there. Yeah,
and I have Here Comes the Sun from Abbey Road, top 10.
Good one. I don't have it in mine either, but it's on my playlist. So
sure, yeah.
Which that makes it better. The fact that I don't have the exact ones, but I've got She's So Heavy, Eleanor Rigsby off Revolver.
Man, that's good.
It's a good song, man.
It tells a story.
Yeah, and that's part of what makes this band. That's like, I'm giving them their due now because it's the story. Like, there's not storytellers anymore. I mean, it's not to go right back to a band I just mentioned, but now the songs are about fucking someone's neck wound. You know, it's not about Eleanor Rigsby. It's about cutting over your neck and fucking the wound. Yeah. Like, this is a different level. I'm getting too old for that shit. I need to listen to Eleanor Rigsby.
Eleanor Rigsby, man, it draws you in. It's definitely an interesting song. I'll tell you what, I'll go through my top 10, and like I said, this would probably change if I went through everything again tomorrow. Man, my number one song, and it'll probably stay, but it's Blackbird from the White Album.
Damn good one.
Good one. Yeah. And then I have Come Together, like I said, from Abbey Road. In My Life from Rubber Soul.
I feel like, did I have In My Life? I don't, but it's on my playlist.
Okay. Sgt. Pepper.
On my playlist, not in my top 10.
And this is kind of weird, but the first 20 seconds of the song Lovely Rita from Sgt. Pepper. It's a really good clip, and then I'm sure that it's Paul comes in singing, and this song just the first 20 seconds of it, man, I just really dig it.
Yeah.
Another top 10, A Day in the Life from Sgt. Pepper. I have Dear Prudence from the White Album. I think I already mentioned Here Comes the Sun, Get Back.
Get Back is in my top 17.
Okay. Then I have Hide Your Love Away from the Help album.
That's a good
That's
one
tough.
too. I almost put that one in there, and as gets tough. That's a good
Oh
one
yeah.
too.
Yeah. And as far as honorable mentions, Yesterday from Help.
Yep.
While My Guitar Gently Weeps from the White Album.
Yeah, that's in my top 10. Which, of course, we know Clapton
Then I
played
have
guitar in that one.
oh yeah, yeah. Helter Skelter, minus the Manson vibes around that song.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. That's a good one as well.
And I have a good story about the Helter Skelter song, man. I had a neighbor friend who was a skater kid, and he moved here from Colorado, and he was a big influence on introducing different music into my life. You know, I had no idea, this is pre-internet. You know, I had no idea that these bands existed, and
Yep.
he really turned me on to a lot of stuff. And his dad was a preacher, and I remember, you know, his dad was pretty open-minded, pretty cool dude. But I remember, you know, we would be in my buddy's basement blasting music, and it would be like corny stuff. You know, we just went through everything. But he'd play, I'm just using this as an example, like Slayer. And then it would be like G.G. Allen and the Murder Junkies.
Oh, God, G.G. Allen.
And his dad wouldn't say a word. But as soon as Helter Skelter came on, turn that shit off right now. You know, because of the affiliation with, I'm assuming, the Manson stuff.
Yeah.
Which I don't know a whole lot about, but it's,
I
you know,
don't either.
we were listening to all this crazy music, but as soon as Helter Skelter came on, unplug that shit right now, or I'm gonna throw your bed out in the alley or something.
Turn it off, devil boy.
yeah, that always. I thought,
Listen
that's
to something
cool.
wholesome like fucking a neck wound. Turn Helter Skelter off.
Exactly. Yeah. So that must have really impacted that generation somehow. You know, I don't know too much about it, or really even care to know about it. But
yeah, me neither.
That's
wives stuff. Wives watch investigative Discovery and people getting eaten and murdered. Like, that's not for me. That's for my wife. Like, that's what makes her feel good in the morning, not me.
Yeah. But I also had Carry the Weight from the Abbey Road album.
I love that whole album. So I think the whole album's in my playlist, honestly. So
man,
I'm with you on a lot of those.
And that was really hard to dial in that small group out of all the songs. I mean, there's just so much stuff.
There's a ton. Now, granted, there's some easy omissions too, like those first couple albums. Yellow Submarine, I don't even count as a whole album, but I don't think I have. For the record, I fucking hate the song Yellow Submarine. Like I wish to God that would have never got made, which granted, I know that's off of Revolver, I think, and then got used in the movie. But I hate that song. And there were some songs that I gladly left out of there. But I spoke of I Want You, She's So Heavy. That's probably my favorite. Eleanor Rigsby right behind. Back in the USSR is a badass song, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Love that one. Glass Onion is in my top 5, probably. That one, I got hooked on Glass Onion. I think that's on the White Album. Yeah. That's a good one. I've got While My Guitar Gently Weeps right there with you. Things We Said Today is on my top 10. I'll Be Back is on my top 10. Something. It's just called Something. I can't remember what album that was on. That's in there.
Yeah.
The song Help I love.
Yeah.
No Reply is on there. And then I guess I'll call these honorable mentions since I got too many damn songs in here. But I Got a Feeling was in contention for my top 10.
Okay.
Drive My Car was in contention for my top 10. We both had Get Back on the list. Norwegian Wood.
Man, that's a good song.
That was in consideration. Might be in there if I went back and listened to all of it. And then I've got Girl, which fucking one word songs. Sexy Sadie. Sexy Sadie turns me on.
Yeah, yeah,
That song gets my motor going. So that's
yeah.
in there. And then me and you cracked up about the Tax Man. I've got that in there too. Like that's a fun song.
That's a fun song, and I hate the Tax Man.
I hate the Tax Man too. Like he can just go straight to Helter Skelter with, Manson and Corey Taylor and all those guys.
The Tax Man hates me as well.
Yeah, you don't like me either. But but the song definitely up there. And that was hard. That was so hard to get. Like Blackbird, I'm honestly not sure why I didn't even write that down, because it should probably be in there.
Yeah.
Sergeant Pepper would probably be, if I was making the definitive list, it would probably go in there. And I think I know what you're talking about with Lovely Rita and the 20 some seconds. Like there's a lot of that. There's a lot of songs that's like, and that's one thing I'll say too. There's a lot of songs where they start and I'm like, okay, this has potential to be my top 10. And then fucking Ringo will start singing or something. I'll be like, no, I'm good.
Oh yeah.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
And I love her. I love Ringo, and there's a couple songs that he sings on that are really good. But for the most part, as far as the pure singing goes, I think Paul's my dude on that.
Oh yeah.
Probably him.
Yeah, and I tell you with that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no. Go ahead.
I was going to say, with a lot of albums that I listen to, I know out of habit within the first 6-7 seconds if I'm going to like the song or not. And with the Beatles, I really have to force myself I hesitate because I don't know what to expect before I hit next.
Yeah.
Just like you mentioned.
It can go, it's a 50-50. Like you might get halfway through the song and be like, what the fuck are they doing now? Like, what is this? Why, what? Like, this sounds like something written by a shaman. Like what's going on? And then, it start out nice and slow and then it gets a little wild and trippy and you start digging it the second half of the song. It's something. I mean, for example, you're talking about the stages and you got like the boy band era and then they drift into more rock and they start smoking pot. I watched on a documentary, like the whole time they filmed Help, they were just stoned every single second of that movie.
Yeah.
Like every second of it. And you can tell because the music starts getting real good.
Exactly.
And it stays that way for quite a while. And then I run into a couple places where I don't have a lot of songs on my playlist, and that's the Magical Mystery Tour. Not really one of my favorite albums. It's a little too experimental, little too much acid. Just wasn't really feeling it. That and Yellow Submarine. Oops, I start playing them. I could almost live. I would be fine without those albums, but Abbey Road and Revolver and the White Album and Rubber Soul, like those, I don't think I could do without those ones.
Oh yeah. I had actually in my notes, I had if I were responsible to shoot a Beatles album up into space to represent all mankind, which album would it be? And I'm interested to see what you would say as well, but I thought the White Album.
I think the White Album, even though I love Abbey Road and it's got like some sentimental value, like the White Album is probably it's like 30-40 songs long, which is just
right.
But there's just so many moments. There's so many moments. Happiness is a Warm Gun is something I hated to leave out of my top 17, 20.
Oh, yeah.
There's just so many songs that push some. Blackbird is on there. And, Birthday is a fun ass song,
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's so many songs on there that just do something they've never done. And that's probably what I would shoot into space too. I'd want somebody to hear that, especially considering it's got a ton to choose from.
Yeah. Now, if you could only choose one album, if you were forced in a cave before the boulder was rolled in front of the cave opening and locked you in, what would the one album be, do you think?
Probably the White Album again, just because I know I've got 30, 40 songs and I'm going to be able to listen to that a lot longer, more than likely. And maybe the bottom 10 tracks of that album that maybe I wouldn't have thrown in a list or on you know, my playlist, so to speak. Like they might grow on me if I have that much time to listen to them. So again, I would hate to be without Abbey Road. I would hate to be without Revolver, because I think those two plus the White Album would be my three favorites. But yeah, give me the White Album. If I couldn't hear Glass Onion again, god damn it, Eleanor Rigsby too. Why couldn't Eleanor Rigsby be on the White Album?
Yeah,
like that's. But yeah, probably the White Album.
Yeah,
minus the Crazy Revolution song that's just a ton of noise.
Yeah.
But if I had some weed or acid with me in the cave, though, then that might rise up the ranks.
Yeah, I actually chose. There's some corny songs on it. I actually chose this Sgt. Pepper as my one and only album if I were forced to choose one, just because, for the most part, I can listen to it all the way through. For the most part, there's a few corny songs in there, but
and you said you bought that one was one of your first albums, right?
Yeah, the second CD I ever bought, just because it was different than the boy band Beatles that I kind of grew up on, and it sounded a little bit, rebellious, and that kind of interested me a little bit. And I'm not a big fan of horns in music. There's only a few bands that can pull that off. The Beatles can pull it off. The Stones pulled it off. But I don't want to go into the Bruce Springsteen songs with the horns and stuff, man.
Yeah, it gets getting a little too 80s. 80s horns don't work. 70s horns don't work a lot. 60s horns can work.
That was like a saxophone and a muscle shirt. It was like they had to go together.
Yeah. Up next is the Beatles featuring Kenny G.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe Slipknot should try that too. Slipknot might need to try some saxophone.
Yeah, they should. But as far as the so-called British invasion, I'm if I stated before, love the Beatles. I'm more of a Stones fan if I had to choose one or the two. But it's almost like if each band was a weapon, the Beatles would be like a polished sword and the Stones would be a club. They're both going to kill your ass.
Yeah.
But they're each their own,
Yeah, the Stones probably are a little more blunt force trauma than quick kill.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Beatles, it's going to get the job done. It's going to be nice and clean. But the Stones is going to get messy when you get killed with that blunt.
Yeah, I mean, you can talk Beatles, talk with your sweet little grandma who wants you to fill your plate up, and then you can talk Stones with your drunk uncle who smells like a pirate and has good stories.
Yeah,
so it's just
pretty accurate.
Yeah, but and it's, I don't know. There's just so much, man, and I hated. I want to say that their last studio album was Let It Be.
It was, right? and I didn't love that one. Like there's songs that I do really like, but as a whole on that album, I don't love it. I plan on giving it more time because I will admit the first and last album they got the least amount of my time going through this. Like I didn't really give them as much time as I gave some of those great albums in the middle. So, I mean, Let It Be's got some great moments. Did you watch the rooftop performance, like their last performance together? Basically, they were on top of that roof, and
I want to say I saw them perform Get Back, I think, on the rooftop, but I haven't seen any of the other performances from that. And I'm a big fan of the Get Back song, but man, that guitar sound drives me nuts. If I'm not mistaken, the solo, it's almost like a guitar, an electric guitar with a tone turned all the way down and the volume halfway. It's just kind of it needs a little bit more of a punch. And I think, oh my gosh, Not that I could have done it better, you know, and I respect it, but just that guitar sound just really didn't flow with that song.
Yeah. I think they did do that on the rooftop, and they did. I need to pull up that playlist, but that rooftop performance, which was, you know, I think there's a handful of songs off Let It Be on that one. That was awesome. Like I've watched that a couple times, and it was really damn good, but I don't love the Let It Be album.
Yeah. My notes say it's an okay album.
Yeah, it's solid. It's just, I mean, it's well known too that was when it was like the beginning of the end. I think they were recording that one at the same time as they were recording, what was the one before, like Abbey Road. I think I think those albums intertwined a bit, but they played Don't Let Me Down on the rooftop. That was really good.
Okay, yeah.
Really good performance of that. But yeah, I feel like Let It Be was maybe rushed, maybe unfinished. I don't know the whole story. I'm pretty excited to watch the Peter Jackson documentary. I think it's just called Get Back. Did you watch the preview of that?
Yeah.
It looks fucking good. I mean, it looks
really
real good. And me and the wife watched the Ron Howard one about Christmas time. I think that was 8 days a week, the touring years. And that was amazing. I mean, there's a lot of footage that got converted from black and white to color. And there was a shit ton of footage, and it was just, it was magical. And now this, you know, that's another thing I love about getting into the Beatles now too. It's like if you want to play historian and go back on not just the music, but on the videos and just the TV appearances, you can start out and watch all that Ed Sullivan stuff and like the Beatlemania period where the girls were passing out, all that good black and white stuff. Like that's all, you know, feel good. I don't love the music, but I love the story. Like watching them become the biggest band that ever lived on the face of the earth. You can see that in some documentaries, and then you can switch gears and watch the touring years and see all the stuff from Help and 8 days a week and you know, all that. And now we're going to get the end of the story. Like Peter Jackson's going to do the Get Back thing. And that's going to be all about the last couple years. And it's like, you know, you get to see it all just as time goes on. And I guess that Get Back documentary has a couple 100 hours of never before seen footage. Like I'm pumped about that. Like that's how much this little journey with the Beatles has just changed music for me a little bit. Like I'm looking forward to that Get Back documentary more than any movie I know about.
Yeah. Now, did you watch the George Harrison documentaries, the recent?
No, I don't even know about them.
Oh, I'll send you that information on those because man, it is good. It's
and that's something too, man. There's so much good stuff to be had. I mean, George Harrison had a killer solo career.
Yeah.
And so did John Lennon. So did Paul McCartney. So did Ringo, for that matter. It's like they didn't stop. You know, they kept cranking it out. Got my mind set on you. Kept pumping it out.
You ever seen that video?
Fuck yeah, I have.
This doesn't have like moving animals that are all.
Oh yeah.
It's
80s through and through. Like
that was the cocaine years.
Oh yeah.
That's coke years. Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. Like I didn't know some of that. I knew about John Lennon, you know. I didn't know how George Harrison died. I wasn't a Beatles fan until the last, you know, handful of weeks. Wasn't a fan at all. And then it's like George Harrison. I asked my wife, I was like, what happened to George? She's like, lung cancer. I was like, well, makes a lot of sense because in that 8 days a week documentary, they fucking smoke from the time they wake up till the time they go to bed. They're just pounding cigs. Fucking pounding them.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, God dang, did they stop? Did they ever stop smoking cigarettes?
I think back then doctors used to prescribe them, so.
Did they?
No, I don't know.
They must. I mean, it fucking looks that way.
Yeah.
Like, Doc, I have a coffee. He's like, smoke a pack.
Yeah.
Hair of the dog. That'll fix it.
Oh, yeah. But I'll tell you what, the George Harrison documentary, it's 2 parts. It's probably 2 hours, at least 2 hours each. After watching that, I declare George Harrison is my favorite Beatle.
Man. Yeah, we talked about this leading into this episode, who our favorite Beatle is. And
yeah, if I had to go with one, I'd go George, mostly because of, I tell you what, I've watched a lot of interviews, mostly with John Lennon, mostly with George Harrison. The way George Harrison responded to questions, I thought, man, I like this dude. You know, he seemed really humble. Just and within a documentary, without giving too much away, the diverse group of friends that he had. You know, he was buddies with a professional race car driver. He was like an IndyCar driver, and just, you know, I thought, oh, why would a guitar player? You know, I mean, he just made friends with a lot of different people, and it's I won't give too much away. I want you to watch it.
I definitely want to watch it because I just you get in that mode, and it's like I want to soak up anything I can, really, about all of them. Like I was listening before I even started listening to the Beatles. You know, when we decided to start doing this podcast, I was listening to an episode of Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, like that podcast. Okay. And yeah. I think he was talking to Al Franken.
Okay.
And they were talking about some of their times on SNL, because Conan was a writer on SNL.
Yeah.
And he said that Al Franken was just like being a total dick, because I guess he was pretty much over the writers at that time. And he was just coming out of his office and yelling. And Conan said he kept interrupting George Harrison because George dropped by the set of SNL, and there happened to be a grand baby piano in the writer's room. And like, they're all sitting around listening to George Harrison basically give him an in-house fucking mini concert on piano. And Conan was like, you wouldn't believe what we got to hear. He's like, it was George Harrison playing piano in our writer's room. And Al Franken kept coming out and be like, turn that shit down. Like, you getting pissed off that they weren't writing because they were listening to George Harrison play music. And he's like, I'm just trying to have a good time. And it's like, I soaked that up. Like, I soaked all that shit up. I'm like, I gotta know more about every one of them. But I'm gonna go Paul McCartney for the time being.
Sure.
Just because I like the voice. He's credited with a shit ton of the songwriting. But I did also, there are things that bother me too. Like I read something about George Harrison saying he couldn't be in a band with him anymore because, like, you know, you'd have to listen to 100 of Paul McCartney's written songs before he'd listen to one of George Harrison's. And it's like that kind of sucks, because George Harrison was a badass. Like, if I could transfer a song over into my top 5, My Sweet Lord by George Harrison would slide right in there.
Man, that's on my I've got that on my phone. That's a good song.
It's a real good song. And that's just a little bit of time that I've given George Harrison. Like, I listened to that album, that song came on, I was like, God dang, man. Like, he's like, you start to see, I don't know who to credit the shit with, man, because Paul McCartney will do solo stuff. George Harrison does solo stuff. You know, John's solo stuff. It's like, you hear so much of what they did as a group in their solo stuff. It's like, who the hell was responsible for this music? And the answer is all of them. Like, the answer is all of them. And that's hard to recognize in a band. Like, I wouldn't say all of Nirvana's were, so I don't know what the fuck Chris Novoselic ever did, you know. Like, he played bass, you know, and Dave Grohl beat the shit out of the drums, but Dave Grohl didn't start writing songs until, you know, Foo Fighters. So it's like,
right,
you know, Kurt was responsible for a shit ton of that. And like the Beatles, like, they were all responsible. They all sang some, they all played different instruments. They just it might be the most talented band of all time. Probably.
Yeah.
Is.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll tell you another little side story. Speaking of SNL, we actually visited the SNL studio at NBC.
Awesome.
And I tell you what, man, it was the weirdest thing. We took a tour of the building. There were 3 miscellaneous studios, depending on what was going on. We were able to go and visit, and it was on a Sunday morning. And the first one was I don't watch much news. A news studio. I can't think of the guy's name. And we didn't know until we got there. And I was crossing my fingers. I was going, please, SNL. So next stop, SNL. And I expected this humongous warehouse like factory, and it's a tiny little shithole in the middle of a skyscraper. And there's 3 stages. One where the host walks out, one where the skits are, and it was almost like a rotating, like on a turntable, where they could be. I mean, there were 2x4s laying around everywhere. I mean, there were just OSHA violations everywhere. They didn't give a shit. They just trash everywhere that you couldn't see from the camera. And then they had the area where the musicians performed, the artists performed. And I thought, this is my church.
Yeah.
This is all the people that have stood here. And of course, we weren't allowed to take any pictures,
because nobody wants to see the shit laying around.
Nobody wants to see the 2x4s laying around and the, rats running around. I mean, it was really a shithole. And, old wooden seats, and every light fixture that you could imagine was hanging from the ceiling. I mean, just thousands of different light fixtures. But I thought, oh my gosh, all the artists that walked through here. I mean, I just wanted to stay there and just the energy. And that makes me feel even better knowing that George Harrison was there playing on the piano a little bit in that area. And just, man, it just gives chills being there, So that's part of I marked that off my bucket list. I can't imagine myself personally visiting a more musical, I mean, there are, but a more musical area than a location.
See, now I want to go, because I never even thought about it that way. Like I didn't know that. I figured same as you. I figured it'd be, walking into Hollywood royalty, even though it's in New York, like, you imagine it's a nice place. So hearing it's shithole is kind of nice, because, I got this nice little audio setup, but this place I'm in is a shithole. There's boxes over there. I got to clean this place up. Something terrible, but yeah, you put the camera in the right place and the shit don't matter.
If there's a camera in the right place, yeah. So yeah, that's.
I'm sure porn's got 2x4s laying all around the place too.
Oh, I guess.
You probably get away from the casting couch, and there's probably like, fucking seesaws over there with circular saws on them and all kinds of crazy shit.
Oh yeah.
Just don't put the camera by the circular saw. Put it on Jenna's vagina.
Yeah. So I guess the cameraman really has the most important job out of all of it.
I mean, yeah, if it looks like that inside, absolutely.
I don't want to say, I take that back. I don't want to say it's a shithole, but it was not like a.
Well, compared to what you were expecting.
Yeah. So, but, I see it on TV and I'm like, they show the clock. I could have threw a penny and hit the clock that they always show starting the show out.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Stuff.
Zoom out from that and then.
I'm
surprised you didn't see Kenan Thompson. I don't think that motherfucker ever leaves that place.
I think he lives there.
I think he does too. He's probably got him like nice little tent bed out of 2x4s and tarps, so he just crashes there. Look, well, since we strayed off, something crazy. Like me and my wife were having a conversation about SNL because we were just talking, and somehow Kenan came up. We're like, "How long has that dude been there?" And we look, and he's been there like 18 years, and he's the longest tenured SNL cast member ever.
Really?
Kenan Thompson. And she kind of laughs. She's like, I really like him. She's like, I respect what he does. I was like, I like him too. I was like, I don't think he's that funny, but I like him. Like he's a likable part of that. And she's like, apparently his career just never took off. He just, SNL is just all he does. I'm like, well, let's find out. Because anytime we talk about anyone, it's like IMDb time, so we pull up IMDb. Kenan Thompson has done as many projects as Brad fucking Pitt.
Really?
Yeah, you just don't know about it because like there's a shit ton of voiceover and a shit ton of like cameos and small parts in a shit ton of movies. Like that dude's ultra successful, but you wouldn't know it because he's not in, you know, World War Z or whatever. So
yeah.
I was like, damn, man, Kenan Thompson does a lot. And I didn't
I'll tell
know.
you
I
what.
thought it was just SNL.
Yeah, with his long run on SNL, I thought, man, that dude's got some shit on the Boss Man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Speaking of which, that's why George Harrison was there. I guess him and Lorne were going out to dinner, and Lorne was running late, so he just hopped on the fucking keys and started playing music for Conan and the gang.
How could you be late meeting George Harrison for dinner? Of course, it's New York City traffic. But
Lorne Michaels, he probably can give 2 fucks. He's like, you'll fucking wait, George, or else. And he's like, oh, I'm a nice guy. I'll hang around.
I'm not going to dinner with you. You're going to dinner with me, pal.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. It just makes me want to know everything about everything. And then fuck, we're sitting around with this quarantine shit anyways. I probably learned more about music and film in the last year than I had the previous 10.
Yeah, good. Well, I'll tell you, whenever you reached out to me regarding listening to the Beatles, the first thing I thought was good. I was happy.
Yeah.
You know, I was glad that you were turned on to them. Never would have guessed it. I never would have expected it.
I mean, that's just, you know, especially growing up in a small town, like there's probably still people that I'm acquaintances with be like, oh yeah, Barker, yeah, you big Tool fan. You know, that's pretty much, you don't get associated with a lot when you don't, you know, give other stuff a chance. But yeah, I mean, that's over the years, I'm sure you can relate. We start mellowing out a little bit. You know, it's not all fucking balls to the wall.
Oh yeah.
Heavy music. And I've always had a soft spot for, I always cherry picked softer music. Like I've always loved Fiona Apple. I've seen Jewel in concert. There was a few acoustic bands that were just real chill that I wanted to see in my late teens and early 20s. Like that potential for more traditional rock has always been there, but it's just a matter of getting to a point where you need something new that might be old. And marrying a wife who grew up with a hippie dad who loves the Beatles. My father-in-law is a massive Beatles fan, massive fan of all that music from the 60s. But yeah, just being around her and hearing her talk about some of this stuff, I'm like, man, like my wife's a cool chick. Like she's cool as shit. So if she likes this, there's got to be something in it for me. And like, lo and behold, yeah, there is. I mean, to a point where we started talking about music on the first episode. You know, we grew up in the Nirvana era. We grew up in, you know, some of the 80s era too. But when you just look at the platter of things you can get from the helping off the Nirvana table, it's really small, you know, and the same goes for a lot of those bands. Alice in Chains, I love them, but it's really small. Pearl Jam, the longevity's not there. They don't have a shit ton of good albums. They have 2 or 3 good albums, and then they really started veering into, you know, their own thing, which is fine. I still like it. It's good. But like, you want to talk about not my favorite band of all time, but if someone was like, who do you think is deserving of being one of the greatest bands in rock history? Nirvana gets in there because of what they did and changed the landscape. And you could probably toss a few grunge bands in there just for fun. But like when you get down to the brass tacks of it, you're not going to beat some of these bands that set the stage for these guys. You know, you're not going to find pure rock music better than the Stones and the Beatles and who knows who else that we come across that, you know, we might find a band that we deem in the conversation for one of the best of all time. Like, yeah, growing up in the 90s, grunge, 9 Inch Nails, shit, all that. It's great. It's a huge part of my upbringing. I still love most of it. But it's like you get to a point and you recognize that's all good and great, but they're not responsible for some of the greatest music that ever come out.
Right.
I mean, who the hell came who came from Nirvana? Puddle of Mud? Creed, Nickelback, post grunge, like
Yeah.
that shit sucks, man. Like post grunge is garbage, but
That's
without
awful.
but without the Beatles, without the Stones, would we even have any of the good grunge stuff or any of the surprisingly good music from the 80s, the small percentage of it? You know, what would we have if we didn't have this to go back on and learn about and figure out, like, yep, the Beatles are responsible for 90% of the fucking rock music out there, as are the Stones and so on and so forth. Like Led Zeppelin, a bunch of the heavier rock that came out, surely Led Zeppelin's got a hand to play in it. You know, that's what they grew up listening to. They, you know, Led Zeppelin set the stage for the next level as far as like getting it a little dirtier, getting it a little heavier. And like, you know, it's really hard to think of the bands you grew up with the same way after you listen to the Beatles and come up with 109 songs that you can't live without.
Right.
It's crazy.
Right. And it's with the early pioneers who really laid the tracks. You know, some of what influenced them, you know, it's, you know, it had to start somewhere,
Yeah.
you know, and that's what's intriguing to me. You know, with like Sergeant Pepper, I don't know how many other bands were, you know, playing music like that, or, you know, and I think that album was kind of created from them being bored and probably tired from touring and
Yeah.
kind of like an alter ego type band or something, or album.
I think I heard as much on one of the documentaries, was like they were kind of sick of just the constant not even be able to walk into a show without almost getting crushed by the fans. It's like, you know what, let's pretend we're a different band. We'll call it Sergeant Pepper and the Lonely Hearts Club Band. Like, you know, you would, it's like one of the first concept albums to ever be made. And that's pretty damn important when it comes to music. It's,
oh yeah,
like you said, they were inspired by some 50s stuff, but they expanded on it. Like they changed it along the way. And I don't know who else was doing that.
Yeah, I don't either.
I mean, I don't know if the Beatles would be as legendary as they are if they didn't do some of this stuff first.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I wonder, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I'm throwing this out there. This is coming out of nowhere. I wonder which Beatle has the most kids.
I know nothing about that. I don't know a damn thing about that. I don't know how many any of them have.
I don't either. I just know of the Danny Harrison, Julian Lennon.
Yeah. But
that's all I know.
You'd think there's got to be a bunch out there they don't know about.
That's what I was going to say, man. You know, those early boy band years.
Yeah, I mean that's a different level of orgy if they want to have them. I mean, you got thousands of girls crushing you. You could have thousands of girls to crush right back in the hotel room after the. Not to get vulgar or anything, but it's like, yeah, how many? Oh man, how are they still alive? Two of them. Oh yeah, how are two of them still alive? I should say, but
yeah.
I mean, there's got to be kids out there that have no idea that they're the son of a Beatle or a daughter of a Beatle. Although you think a girl back then would be proud and just shout it to the heavens like, this is George Harrison's kid.
Yeah. Oh, that'd suck having just a shit job, you know. I don't want to say anything in particular, but
7-Eleven maybe not
working at a 7-Eleven or something, and you know,
respect to anyone that works, but I know
exactly
right. Yeah.
And your dad's Paul McCartney and you don't even know it.
Yeah. He comes in and you fucking give him a slushie and they just lock eyes for a minute like, dude looks familiar. Yeah. All walks on out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to tell. But yeah, that's I mean, this it became so serious for me. I've spiraled out into other things. Fuck Tool reference. Oh, spiraling out. But like, you know, started listening to Paul McCartney's solo stuff. Like whenever I met my father-in-law's, he's always got that Axis. Is that what it is? It's like a music channel. I don't even know. But
I don't know either.
I swear to God, Ringo's on stage every time I go to the house. Like Ringo's singing something on this cable music channel.
As a live show from Branson, Missouri.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. He's got like John Fogerty with him, and you know. It's just a bunch of people. And
I did hear.
I stop and watch it now. So
Yeah, I did hear. I went down like a YouTube rabbit hole with Paul McCartney interviews, and he was talking about when he performed with Michael Jackson.
I saw that too.
Did you? Did you
Yeah.
hear about when Michael Jackson purchased the rights to the music?
Yeah, like I remember Michael Jackson telling him directly he was going to do it, and Paul McCartney laughed it off, like, "Oh,
He's
yeah,
like,
okay."
he's like, no, I'm going to buy your library, Michael Jackson.
Yeah,
like,
just fucking around. And Michael's
Yeah.
like, "No, really, Paul, about it."
Yeah, but come to find out,
Not mine.
I think Paul and Yoko owned 49% of the rights. And of course, the big business machine owned 51%. Well, it was supposedly going to go up for auction. And Yoko thought that they could get it. I think it was like a proposal of $15 million to buy the rights. Yoko's like, no. We can get it for 10, Paul. So they set back. I think Michael bought it. Don't quote me on it, but it was
I think you're right.
It's like 50 million or some shit like that. You know, Michael put it right next to his Elephant Man skeleton and, you know, his cigarette smoking monkey and, you know, just probably collected dust or, you know, I don't know how that shit works, but
more than likely. Wonder, I mean, but where to go after Michael passed?
Apple.
Eh.
I don't know. I always heard that was Steve Jobs' dying wish was to acquire the Beatles catalog. I don't know if that's true. That's not.
I think I've heard that too, though. And that's something else. I don't quite understand that. I just haven't done enough research, but I see all these artists now, like Bob Dylan just sold his entire catalog.
Really?
Like, I don't quite get it. It's just the rights to the music. I mean, is it that simple? Is it just?
I don't understand it. I don't understand stock. I don't understand the rights to music. You know, I mean, it's just things that are beyond my understanding. You know, if I owned it, why wouldn't you just keep it? You know?
Yeah. Well, I guess the argument for the artists like Bob Dylan that sold their stuff off is like, you're aging out. I mean, you're getting pretty damn old. We don't know. I mean, 2020 took a lot of folks away from us, so it's hard to tell what 2021 is going to do. But, you know, they're not making money touring. They're not making money making albums because, you know, bands and artists don't make money making albums anymore. They only make money touring for the most part.
Yeah.
Pandemic shuts that down. We don't know when that's going to end. So I'm guessing some of these artists, I think Stevie Nicks was another one that was getting ready to sell all hers, which Fleetwood Mac's another story too. I've recently, some stuff I didn't think I'd ever get into, but Fleetwood Mac's some good shit too.
Put it on the list.
Huh?
Put it on the list.
Put it on the list. Did you give him much of a chance at any point or no?
Just the highlights, just the hits.
Some good stuff. But
I bet.
But yeah, it's like they don't know how much longer they got, and they're not making music or money touring, so why not cash in? I guess I would probably do it too, you know.
Yeah.
I'll cash out this podcast and we'll each get a couple dollars each, like just cash it out, you know. two for you, two for me, fucking McDouble and maybe a large Coke if we find some change.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I don't know. I can't wait to do more. I almost feel like we started at the pinnacle, like went straight for the Beatles, and it's like, are we, you know, what are we going to get excited about from here? Like what on this list, which again, anybody that listens, by all means, like you can email me, Hicks, if you want to give me your email address, you can do that. But alkalinejbarker@gmail. Like if you think there's a band or an artist that is truly responsible for something great, I want to know about it. You know, I want to give it a chance.
Sure.
So finally did it with the Beatles, and it's one of the best things I've done in a long time because, you know, I got to the point to where I didn't know what the hell to listen to at all. So this has kind of rekindled, you know, my interest, and I'm sure we'll get to a Megan Thee Stallion episode eventually. But, you know, I started listening. I started listening to the female rap game of 2020 and shit, and like enjoying that more than rehashing stuff I grew up with. And I'm like, I guess I have to get into new music somehow. And thank God for Megan Thee Stallion. I love that chick, but thank God I went back and listened to the Beatles, because, you know, it gives me something to look forward to. I got a long drive, you know, half-hour drive to work, so that gives me some time. And,
Sure.
yeah, I'm pumped about listening to some of these other bands.
Me too.
Hopefully, you know, who knows, maybe solo careers. I don't know. It's hard to tell what we'll get into, but so we've kind of put Queen on the list, David Bowie, The Who, Steve Miller Band, reluctantly, the Stones, Deep Purple, Fleetwood Mac. I think the Stones are the natural next step, aren't they?
I believe so.
I think so too. Cause I mean, that's, you know, you talk about the British invasion, and the two biggest faces of that was the Beatles and the Stones. And funny story. I think the episode's still out there. I did a podcast a while back ago, and you could actually just search for the title of the podcast. But me and my buddy Neil, we spent an hour talking about the greatest American rock band of all time. You know how fucking hard that is? Like,
I bet.
There are none. Like,
Yeah.
like legitimately, there are none. Like, you've got AC/DC's in the conversation, for fuck's sake. You know,
they're not American.
No,
they're not American.
Right? My bad. See that proves my point. There's nothing. You know, it's like, I think, okay, maybe it was Aerosmith, and God, I don't even know. It's fucking pathetic though. Like,
yeah, it is.
To like try to stack up the top couple best American bands of all time against the Stones and the Beatles and Led Zeppelin, and I mean, it goes on and on. Like, the American bands, there just isn't anything. I'd say it'll take us a minute to get to an American band, if I had to guess.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've never really thought of that.
I mean, I think I came to the conclusion, and this is just me, because again, if you go through the whole discography, the Foo Fighters for me are way up there. And that's surprising. Like, that's surprising for people to hear, but there's a shit ton of really good rock. According to Ranker, the best American rock band of all time is Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Yeah.
And I like Creedence a lot. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers is 3. Aerosmith is 4. That's what you're dealing with when you compare the British invasion with great American rock history.
See, it's just like you said, man. You get the Beatles, you get the Stones, you get Led Zeppelin. Man, that's in a whole different tier, in my opinion, versus Tom Petty, rest in peace. You know, that's a different category, in my opinion.
Yeah, you know, and no disrespect to him. Like, Tom Petty's
exactly.
badass, you know. Exactly. But yeah, when you have to start debating whether it's Aerosmith or Creedence, I don't know what to say on that, you know.
Man, Creedence.
Like, yeah, and I like Creedence, but nowhere near some of the bands we're going to spend the first handful of episodes talking about. Prince and the Revolution is like 11. Journey is 13. Like, it's just getting scary. Journey. I'm waiting to see ICP on this list coming in at like 35. Scary as hell. Foo Fighters are at least on it at 21, but then you get into Pearl Jam and Kiss. Kiss sucked. Is there should we ever bother with that?
Man, I grew up with a couple brothers, and they were diehard Kiss fans.
How and why?
Oh my gosh, you guys. You know, I heard like 3 songs, and that was enough for me to know that I do not like this music.
I don't even think they knew how to play their instruments right.
I don't think they did either.
That's another fun thing. Like I mentioned it last time, I'll throw this last one out there before you have any closing words before we end it. But I hate to keep promoting the podcast, but I have a lot of fun listening to the podcast. Your favorite band sucks.
Sure.
Because these two guys just rip apart every fucking band. They actually think the Beatles suck, which is laughable. But I get it. They don't like it, whatever. That, you know, that's part of the fun is hearing them talk so much shit.
Yeah.
But you also get actual good information from it. And they were talking about like Kiss Kiss did not blow up until they released a live album. Like,
really?
they could not sell their studio albums. I guess the producers that made those studio albums are on record as saying that those albums are pure fucking garbage. Like, the band can't play their instruments. They don't know what they're doing. Then they stuck them in some face paint and did a live album, and all of a sudden Kiss blows up.
Yeah.
And it's like,
well, I always figured that the makeup was to compensate for their lack of ability.
yeah.
And that's funny. That reminds me, I'm going to go off the rails again just for a minute. My son and I actually, this is funny, ran into Alice Cooper, speaking of makeup, ran into Alice Cooper at a Macy's in West Virginia at Christmas.
What?
He was actually performing the next day after looking into it. He was Christmas shopping in Macy's, had an assistant with him. Oh my God, dude, that makeup the years of makeup. You know, I don't know much about Alice Cooper music and stuff.
I don't either, but I'm going to write him on the list.
Man, the poor old dude, he had some super nice guy, you know.
Everyone says that.
Picture. Super nice guy. And I hear he does a lot of stuff as far as
community and
rehab
donating
and shit and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yep.
but it's man, he just looks so tired.
Oh yeah. So he probably is. I mean, he's probably exhausted. That guy's what is Alice? Is Alice Cooper in his 70s yet?
I'd say every bit of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you see Paul McCartney and like looks pretty damn good for his age. And Ringo looks my age. You know, like I pray to God I look like Ringo when I'm in my 70s, man.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. Yeah.
Look, all those peace and love shirts just keep him fresh. You know, he's happy looking dude.
Yeah, no worries.
That's the sad part though about getting into the Beatles and getting into some of these bands. Now I'm gonna be upset as hell when they die.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna be upset as hell. My wife, we watched we talked about last time, but you know, the Sound City documentary where Paul McCartney plays with the Foo Fighters. Like when Paul McCartney enters the screen on the TV unannounced, my wife just starts bawling. I'm like, damn, when he passes, she's gonna be a mess for a while.
Oh yeah.
And I might be too. Who knows?
Oh yeah. Crazy.
But yeah, so set in stone. Now we're going on a deep Stones kick. First thing in the morning, I'm gonna fire up the Stones first album all the way through the last. I have a feeling I'll be able to come up with the top 10 easier, but maybe not. I don't know. You've listened to a good bit. Is there a bunch of really good Stones music out there that aren't part of the hits?
Yeah, I think so. I hate to go into much detail right now. I want to save it for the next episode, but you know, it's like with all the other good bands, it's the drug years, you know.
yeah. Wait, Keith Richards did drugs?
I think he did just a little bit. I think one of my favorite quotes of his was, "I don't have problems with drugs. I have problems with the police."
Oh shit. Yeah, that should make for some good times. My wife will be thrilled too because she loves Mick Jagger like she loves our children. So
yeah.
So that'll be good times. But yeah, so you know, if you're enjoying it, come back for the next one. We're going to deep dive into the Stones, and who knows, Alice Cooper may sneak his way in there. You know, droopy face and all at some point. I've never listened to a single. I think the only time I have willingly listened to Alice Cooper was watching Wayne's World.
Oh yeah.
I think that's the only time.
That's right. I forgot about that scene. He went like really highly intelligent or something. Really broke off on some type of explanation and really blew everybody away.
Yeah.
But
Wayne and Garth look at each other like, what?
Yeah.
Makes me want to watch those.
Yeah, and I think Alice Cooper. I used to play it on Ethan's last day of the school year. Was school's out for summer.
Yep.
pretty sure that's a Alice Cooper song.
It is, yeah.
To play that, but
yep. That and the Frankenstein song is the only thing I know.
Frankenstein, that's what I was thinking. I kind of get him confused a little bit with the Zappa stuff.
Me too. And that's shit. Here we go.
Put Zappa on the list because I don't know shit about Zappa.
I don't either. And you mentioned it through a message, session we were having. I didn't write it down, but now I got it.
Yeah, like my guitar's going to kill your mama or something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't know. And I was always afraid of Zappa. I just didn't want it to be a bunch of artsy noise.
Yeah. That's I want to hear some actual rock music that attributed to all the rock music that I knew beforehand. That's really. And then when we run out of that, it's like, all right, millennials, what's up next for us? At some point, and they'll be like, "Oh, you gotta listen to Mac Miller," and I'll be like, "Oh, God damn it, fuck, do I really have to?"
No, you don't.
Well, it depends on how far the podcast goes. We just might. Just might. We might get into the parts where we're like, now, which Lil did we listen to last week? Was it Lil Chucky or Lil Baby or Lil Beaver? I can't remember.
We'll go alphabetically, ignoring Lil and starting with the A.
That's probably a pretty good idea. I don't think there's a Lil that I like. Well, Lil Nas is fun, but I just like him because he's super sweet and sings his Old Town Road at like schools and all the kids are jumping. I'm like, all right, I like that guy. I like him.
There's only one little Lil Wayne.
Never really listened to him.
Yeah, that's I think the Carter 3 album. I wore that out. That's one of the few albums that I can listen to from beginning until end.
Huh.
So I'm
gonna end up having to do it.
Yeah, try that out.
Before we go, if there's anything else you want to bide your time by, you may already listen, I don't know. But if you're in the mood for some good rap, fucking Joyner Lucas is a bad man.
Don't even know who that is.
Really, really good. And generically, I found out about him in the most generic way possible. Like the Eminem album Kamikaze.
Mm-hmm.
There was a song called Lucky You on that album, and it was kind of a big hit, but Joyner Lucas was on that song with him, and I was like, God, who is this guy? And then I start listening to his music, and it's like, you haven't seen the song I'm Not Racist, and it's like a kind of a story back and forth between a white guy and Joyner Lucas, and the whole song is just basically explaining why they seem racist, but they're not. He's a storyteller too, like big time storyteller. So
I like that.
Yeah, might dive into some Joyner Lucas. When you need a break from the Stones, you might find that you really like it. So
sure.
I'm gonna end up listening to the Carter 3 now, just because I've never listened to a single Lil Wayne album. The only thing if somebody's like, give me lyrics from a Lil Wayne album, I'd be like, well, take a well, drop it on your fucking head. That's all I know. That's all I know. Because I heard it once and I was like, this is garbage. What the fuck is this? And then it's like, that's Lil Wayne. I'm like, Lil Wayne sucks.
Yeah.
But maybe he doesn't. I need to give it a chance.
He's got a lot of trash out there, a lot of stuff. But man, I'm happy. Like I said earlier, I'm glad you got turned on to the Beatles. I'm happy for you. I'm glad.
Fully turned on to the Beatles. Now I can actually have a conversation with my wife about them, and that makes her happy too. So
yeah. On
to the next page in the notebook. It'll be the Stones. So we'll be back in a week or 2 or 3 or whenever we get done listening to the Stones, and hopefully you'll enjoy that if you enjoyed this one. So we will see you guys soon.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to Stuck in My Generation. Again, if you want to suggest bands for us to listen to, send it over to stuckinmygeneration@gmail.com.